We're going to start with the cone. We've already established our light source, which is in the upper right-hand corner, which then established our cast shadow, okay? I'm going to start with my 4B pencil, and I'm going to work in the cast shadow first. Then I'm going to work in the value in the cone itself, and then I'm going to work the background, okay? And then the very last thing that I'm going to do is blend things out and then use my eraser as a drawing tool. So I'll be showing you how to do all of that today. Do this on the cylinder with you, and then the sphere and cube, you're on your own for that, okay? All right, so 4B pencil, you wanna make sure that your pencils are nice and sharp. Anytime that you're drawing, they should be sharp so that you can get in and work your details. With the cast shadow, it is the darkest immediately under your form. Okay, so I'm going to kind of tilt my paper here because sometimes it's just more comfortable for me to work this way. I'm going to find where that cast shadow starts, and I'm going to go ahead and start filling in that area using quite a bit of pressure. Okay, and then as I move away from the form, I'm going to go ahead and let that shadow dissipate because it's on a table surface technically. And so light will start to come around and interfere with this shadow as it goes across the table. So it'll be kind of lighter and lighter. Whoops. Be careful about going too far into your form because then you mess up that line or that overall look. You can make adjustments as needed, and then your cast shadow should be the darkest value that you have in your whole composition. Okay, so something like that, and then I can go in and kind of smooth out any areas that aren't nice and gradual. Okay, I'm going to kind of fix up this bottom here. There we go. That's better. Which means that I'll fix up when I do my background. So here you guys can kind of see where I've kind of made it come to a point a little bit. To make this match, I'll have to fix that when I do some value around on that side, okay? On a cone, because it is straight up and down, like our value is gonna be straight up and down like that, but it's tapered. So you have a wider range of value change down at the bottom and a smaller range at the top, okay? So I'll show you what I mean by that. I usually like to put down a base of value first, and then I go back on top, darker. So I'm going to start on the left-hand side. I want it to be lighter than my cast shadow. And I'm just going to kind of start filling that in. And then as I work towards the right-hand side, I'm going to let it get lighter and lighter and lighter till I get to about the halfway point, and then I'm going to stop. So on the other side of that halfway point, I'm going to switch over to my H pencil. Okay, so it's kind of like this. Now I'm going to go in and kind of bump up those values a little bit more. So I'm going to add higher contrast. Contrast means the difference between your lights and darks. So if it is high contrast, you have a lot, or it's mostly very light and very dark. If you have very little contrast, then that means it's all just kind of like flat grays. So like on your Zentangle project, if you had a variety of lights and darks, you had high contrasts. If you was all kind of the same, you had low contrast. Okay, so there's kind of my first half of my cone here. Now I'm going to take my H pencil and start it on that halfway point. And now I need to look on is this erased as good as it can be erased? I don't think so, this top ellipse. So before I start adding my value in there, I want to get rid of that guideline a little bit more. Maybe yours was okay, mine wasn't. Okay, so I want to get rid of that so I don't see it. That's why for our next project, we're going to start your forms on a piece of printer paper, and then we'll do the tracing of it again. Okay, so I'm going to let it get nice and light, almost to where it's pretty much a 0 or a 1 on that right-hand side. I'm going to use kind of a little bit more pressure in the middle to mix in with that B pencil. And that looks good. Kind of like you just want a nice gradual fade from dark to light. Do you need to adjust? That's fine. You can always switch back over to your B pencil. And you can make it darker on that side if you need to. Have it go lighter, lighter. Okay, so the biggest point on value is to get rid of your outlines to show your form. So to do that with your value, you have to put a dark next to a light. So I'm about to do my background, and to make sure that I don't lose my form, I should have a dark next to a light. So if I'm gonna do a dark background, would that go on the left-hand side of my composition here or the right-hand side? Huh?
The left.
It's gonna go on the left?
Well, you said dark with the light, so it would go on the right.
Yeah. So if I put dark on my background over here on the left, like a couple of you suggested, I would lose the cone and the, yeah. But if I put it on the right-hand side where it's next to, I get rid of this outline, and it's gonna be high contrast. I'm gonna make that side of that cone pop. So I'm gonna grab my B pencil, and now I'm gonna do some shading on the outside of that and work my way out. So it gets rid of that sketch outline. That I had made. And it bumps up the contrast, and I'm following that shading rule, a light next to a dark. I can go ahead and make this come down onto the tabletop, and I kind of needed to fix how my cone looked anyway. Kind of let it come more to a point. So this value can come here, but then when I get closer to that cast shadow, I need it to get lighter. So I'll kind of let it fade by the shadow. Okay, then on the left-hand side, I want it to be light over there. So I need to add in some value, but it doesn't need to be wicked crazy dark. So I'm just using my H pencil just to put a little bit back there. Okay, and then maybe I want it to blend in a little bit better up here at the top. But I'm kind of losing my cone up at the top on the left hand side. So I'm gonna go in, kind of darken that up just a little bit and kind of fix my lines that I've got going on. There we go. Okay, like that, guys. You've got your form, you've got your cast shadow, and now you've addressed the background as well. Okay, so I'm gonna blend everything together, and then I'm gonna go in with my eraser to add in my highlights after I've blended and to correct any issues I've got going on, okay? So I'm gonna start in my darker values first. I'm kind of using my tortillon on its side. Just a little bit. So start my darker areas first, and then I'll move to my lighter areas. When you move on to your lighter areas, don't forget to lessen up the pressure on your tortillon too. So your point here is you want to get rid of that paper texture, and you want to smooth out all of the pencil work that you just did. So I like to get all of my pencil shading done first, and then I go in and smooth. Okay, so I wanted to get lighter as I go over the right hand side. I'm purposely going to make it just a little bit too dark on that right hand side so I can really show you how you would use your eraser as a drawing tool. And then I'm going to get the left side here, background. Okay. All right, so you have two different options on your eraser. You can either use your large eraser and you can work on a corner, or this is where I can introduce you to your kneaded eraser. Your kneaded eraser is that square gray thing in your supply pack. And if you want to use that, you don't have to open up the whole thing. You could just open up a corner, and the point on that, on a kneaded eraser, is you can mold this into any shape that you need it to be in, and it works as an eraser. So if I'm wanting to kind of work out some graphite in like a really teeny tiny small area, I can make this into a little teeny tiny point and use that, okay? So for some of these highlights, I just want kind of like a thinned out line. So I'm just kind of pinching it flat. And then I can use it almost as like a regular eraser to pull out some of the graphite that I don't want anymore. Okay, kind of like that. And then I'm also going to use my kneaded eraser to put in that reflected light. Okay, so for the cone, since it's like closer to the tabletop down here, we're going to see it more down here than up at the top. But I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to pinch my kneaded eraser kind of flat and use this like line here. And I'm going to go right along the edge. Now I'm not at a very good angle here. There we go. Okay, so it's a little stronger at the bottom than it is at the top. And there we go. Okay. All right, guys, I'm going to finish up the cylinder with you. I'm going to go a little faster on that since we're just taking everything we've learned and just kind of applying it. And then you guys have sphere and cube on your own after I help you at least make sure you know where the cast shadow and everything is. Okay, cylinder, the things that are the same is that they're straight-sided and that our light source is coming in from basically the same direction. The things that are different is that it has a flat side on the top, and it also does not taper, okay? But it still has straight sides and it curves around like the cone did, okay? So if our new deal here is we have a flat surface and our light source is coming in and pretty much shining right on that flat surface. If it's doing that and it's flat, it doesn't curve, is this going to have one single value in there or is it going to fade? What do you guys think? Can you guess? Will the top be just one single value or is it going to fade like the sides on a cylinder and cone? What do you think? You think a fade? Okay. A little bit. Okay. How many of you, raise your hand if you think it's a fade? Okay. Some of you, that's okay. How many of you think it's just a flat value? Okay, so I had like 5 people commit to it being a fade, 1 person commit to it being flat, and like the rest of you are like, I have no idea. Okay, so on here, what'll happen is because the light's coming down, it's gonna be flat because it's not a curved surface. Now I can see where you would be getting the fade because you are thinking about it going away from the light source. And in a sense, that is correct, in a way. But because this is not showing any curvature, it's showing flat, you want it to be one single value, okay? All right, so let's start with our cast shadow, just like we did on the cone. Darkest right underneath that shape. So I'm gonna make sure that my pencil's nice and sharp. And then I'm gonna start in the cast shadow right underneath that cylinder. And work my way outwards. And like I said, I'm gonna go a little faster this one. Don't forget that you want your cast shadow to be your darkest value in your composition. So don't be afraid to really use that pressure on that pencil. Okay? All right, now my cylinder, because my light source is the same like it was in the cone, so that means the darkest side is over here on the left-hand side. So I'm gonna stay with my B pencil, and I wanna go ahead and value that in, getting lighter as I go over to the right. And so remember, I'm gonna kind of start at the halfway, stop at the halfway point, so that I can work half of this with my B pencil and half of it with my H pencil. Be careful on getting too much like overlap between your layers because you're adding more value. So I just try and at least get a base layer down, and then I try and smooth everything out with nice long, like quote unquote coloring lines. So here I'm just trying to even everything out. And I want these values to be fairly dark. Might want to bump up my cast shadow just a little bit more right where it meets that form. There we go, that's better. Okay, now I want to switch over to my H pencil, kind of have it blend in with that B pencil there, and then just have it go nice and light, almost to where it's just non-existent over on that right-hand side. Okay, then for the top, I don't think it should be like a pure, I mean, maybe if the light was shining like directly on top of it, it shouldn't be like a pure white, but it's gonna still stay fairly light because the light's coming in that way. So I would say like a 1 or a 2. I think I'm gonna go more for a 2. So I'm using my H pencil. And I'm just gonna fill the top in solid like that. And then I can go back and kind of fix up. Sorry that my computer does this. Okay, So now I'm going to do the same thing like I did with the cone, and I'm going to address some of the background. So if it's lighter, if the cylinder is lighter on the right-hand side, then I need a darker background behind it and around it. And kind of let that fade out. Then I can also come around by the cast shadow, but I want it to make sure that it's lighter than the cast shadow. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and let it come up and around to get rid of that dark outline that I have for the top of the cylinder. I'm going to turn my paper so it's a little more comfortable for me to draw, because I kind of need to reshape the top of that cylinder anyway. Okay. Kind of something like that. And then H pencil over on the other side. And then I can also let that blend in with that B pencil up at the top. Okay, now I'm going to blend everything. I'm going to start with my cast shadow first, using quite a bit of pressure. Okay, then I'm going to do the inside of my cylinder here. Okay, then I'm going to go on the background that's darker. Ugh, I need to fix up that top of my cylinder. Looks kind of wonky. So I'm just going to go in there and correct it using my B pencil by just adding in some value. A little better. Looks kind of off center. Okay, then I can go through and do my light values. Then I want to do the same thing with my kneaded eraser. Shape it into the shape that I need. Work over here on the right hand side, get some 0 values in there, and then I want to get that reflective light highlight over there on the left. I kind of did an okay job-ish. Try it again. Little better-ish. Okay, guys. So that's it for the cone and the cylinder. So you finish it up if you haven't. So on your sphere, your light source is in the same spot, the upper right. So then your shadow should come out this way, bottom left, and it's not circular. Remember, it's kind of elliptical. Okay, your cube I kind of switched it up on you. It's on the upper left. So its cast shadow will be down and to the right. And it's from this corner to this corner. It's your full cube there. And then you're gonna have the top of it show like that. So remember, like, the cube sides are flat. So are they going to be gradual, or are they going to be all one value per face? Someone take a guess for me.
Gradual.
Okay, someone said gradual. Okay. So that one have really been working in gradual for these. The gradual is to show curvature. Okay, so don't forget that gradual shows more curvature than going away from distance. So on these, because they're flat faces, they'll just be one flat value. So you have to figure out which one's going to be the darkest, which side is the furthest away from the light source. Then you have to figure out which one's your lightest, which one's the closest to your light source, and then that leaves your middle. Now, are you going to have like a pure 0 or a 1 side on this cube?
No.
Why?
The source is facing on the side that's not shown.
Yeah. So the one that's actually the lightest is you can't see it. It's gone. Okay? All right, guys. So that's all I've got for you today. You've got about 10 minutes. So you might be able to finish up your cylinder and probably get your sphere done at least. Okay? So work on that. I'll be, like I said, doing checks tomorrow. Macy's kind of walking around right now. I don't think she's seen any hardcore issues yet, so flag her down if you need her.